If you will, thank you for reminding them that they have to actually lobby, other members of the House and the Senate, because at least what I've learned is a lot of times I get calls in the district office from people over in St. Pete, Jacksonville, and some of these small towns that I've never heard. And since we're speaking of the concealed weapons, can you also mention the lawsuit that's going on with it? Because if in fact, I think it's at the First District Court of Appeals in Tallahassee, if that actually is, at least if the court upheld in favor of the cities and the counties, then what would that do as far as the legislation is concerned?
If the court appeals, well, if our legislation passes, then that lawsuit won't even need to be heard.
Well, because I mean, they could actually issue an order any day, but I mean, if the lawsuit is passed, in effect, we won't even need the bill at that. I mean,
if that's what you're trying to say, yeah. But
I wanted you to also let them know that it's also a case that's being decided in the court system, and hopefully, if it's overturned in the court system, then we don't have use for the bill.
I think you just let them know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Phil, yes, sir.
Yeah, see, thought just came to my mind. It seems to me that in the county, I believe that all public buildings that are built require 1% for art in public places. Why can't there be a law or an ordinance that says that a percentage of that money can go to cameras for every public building?
That 1%, I'm sorry?
I think in the county, Palm Beach County, is 1% of the cost of every public building is required to use art in public places. Art has to go to that building. It seems to me it makes a lot of sense to use some of that money or have another percentage come out for cameras, so all public buildings can have cameras.
That's it. Yes, Mr. Lewis.
Well, I can tell you that for the city of West Palm Beach and the downtown development district, special taxing district that runs west on Australian, east over to Flagler, south to Okeechobee, and gerrymanders between 3rd and 5th to the north. What we've done is we've taken matters into our own hands with regards to safety with our residents. And there are federal grants available for safety enhancement opportunities. So what we're doing is that we're installing cameras on various condominiums that have the ability to actually survey up to 1¼ miles in all directions, and they rotate here, and they are computer operated, computer programmed. So as much as I like to hear that legislation is taking place from your standpoint to make our communities safe and sound, there is a certain amount of responsibility I believe that any property owner would take the initiative to do. Yes, I understand it's an investment. Yes, I understand that it costs money. But, sometimes we have to show our contribution, our concern by not just talking about it or talk to you, State Rep, but sometimes we have to take the lead ourselves and initiate some things on our own. So now that you have a dual-track kind of approach with concerned citizens out there and property owners, if the legislation does pass, I can tell you that we'll have a much better enhanced community. So, and that goes for every jurisdiction, every location in the city. But, sometimes we have to do what we need to do to assist you in these endeavors. So I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Absolutely. Dr. Robinson.
I have a list.
Oh, Lord.
It won't be long. Okay. So the first thing in terms of all this gun talk is just, can we please limit the clips and shut down the gun shows? I mean, because I don't know. To me, it seems easy, but I don't know. Okay. In the school world, and you will hear this when we have our joint meeting. And Mr. Crawford, would you get the videos from yesterday's workshop and the backup and go to the legislative delegation so they could prep? Okay, so the issue is the accountability for the teachers and the whole Marzano and the test scores being used to evaluate teachers. Our request is that we slow that down. And you will hear that in great detail, but I'll warm you up to that right now.
All right.
I mean, I personally think that we need to slow it down. As a board member, I think so too, but I personally think so, and I can discuss it in more detail later. Okay, so we keep talking about violence. We have to invest money in community mental health. Okay? Life is stressful. It is no, I tell my patients that are like, Gulf War veterans, there's no normal response to walking through hell. And some people are walking through hell every day. And there's no normal response to that, right? And, okay, because I can really go off on this. We have to reinvest in addressing mental health issues in our communities. And I'm going to ask you to help allocate dollars to address mental health issues in the schools. Because I know at least one piece of how we can start addressing that better, but it requires funding and for one person in each school to assist with this. And again, I can talk about that at some length too, but it's the mental health. It's the mental health, okay? Because it ain't enough police in the world. We could have had 5 police at that school in Connecticut and he was still coming through killing people, okay? We could have had metal detectors and everything else, right? It's every day now you're reading about folks like killing their family members. We got to address the mental health issues, okay? And I'm going to say this. Some communities have normalized mental illness, okay? All right? And it ain't normal. And so we have to have culturally competent community mental health. And then we have to address life after felony. Okay, so now I got a shameless plug for our organization called Occupy the Community. And so I will hope everybody comes. We meet at the Urban League the 4th Saturday of every month at 12 noon. January 26th, the entire legislative delegation will be invited, but we'll make recommendations for how we suggest legislation be changed to address the ability for somebody to have a functional life after they've been criminalized. We have children, okay, so look at it. I swear to you, I'm working on slowing this schoolhouse to jailhouse track. But we have children who have been criminalized, that have felonies, have got their life together, have got credentials and trades, and can't get a license in the state of Florida to work. And so they have to leave. Now, if you can't get a license to work, if you can't work legally, and you want to be here, what you're going to do? You're going to work illegally. Okay, so if we really want to address the issue, we have to address the ability for people to have a good life, even though they made a mistake. And then the other thing I want to tell you is that we're bringing in a psychologist from what I believe is the only Black-run community mental health facility in the nation. And she will be providing stuff. It's mental health is the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. That's another issue that the delegation, as a whole, the Palm Beach County delegation, I think we're looking at that to try to see what we can come up with. I went to a Health and Human Services meeting here at one of the churches, and I heard a lady say that people who are mentally ill are no more violent than anyone else. And from what I've seen personally, that has not been the case. So that you're right. That's something that we have to address, and I'm hopeful that we're not only with violence, but we'll address that period. Because once people are institutionalized with a mental illness, they're only allowed to stay in there so many days, and then they're back out. And if you know, like I know, a majority of the people who are homeless because of a mental illness, and it's very difficult to deal with because people who have family members who have mental illness, and when those people come out of whatever institution and it goes from a mental facility to home, to jail, back to a mental facility, back home, and eventually the caretaker or somebody at home doesn't want to deal with it anymore. And a lot of the people who we see walking around on the streets who are homeless because of a mental illness. So we, as a state, on the state level, we do really have to come up with a better way to address mental illness.
Representative Powell.
Yes.
I am one of those people who have a child who is mentally ill. She was a police officer, and what makes it even more difficult, because she was a police officer, in a position of authority, it's hard to kind of keep them on their medication, and for her especially. And what I will say is that mental illness is a problem, but the problem is Florida not stepping up to the plate to do more for people with mental illness. And I know, as a person who is an elected official, how difficult it has been for me to get help for her for the last 13 years. I can't imagine what somebody else out there has to go through. It's like jumping through hoops. So.
I agree. And I would like to get with you to find out if there's anything that you would like to see on a personal level proposed in legislation, because I'd be willing to carry that. Because, in my family, we also have dealt with the same issue. Yes, Ms. Chambers.
Just want to say congratulations, Representative Powell. My name is Renee James, and I am a resident of Riviera Beach, and a recent graduate of PIP, which is Partners in Policymaking. This class is sponsored by the Florida Department of Developmental Disabilities. It teaches professionals, parents, community activists to become advocates for the disabled. I am an advocate for the disabled. I do have some legislation I would love to get with you to run by you to help further the advance of disabled persons, our children, more activities and opportunities for them in our community. So that's one of the things that I will be getting with you about. And the other thing, as a single parent, there's some legislation that I would also like to talk about, child support enforcement payment and reform. Just to give you guys something quick on that, I went and looked at my child support record, and it took from the time a payment was made in April, I received the payment in October. So 7 months it took for one payment to get to me through the Department of Revenue, which is absolutely ridiculous. So those are my two issues.
All right, thank you, Ms. James. I have B. Cohen. Mr. Watt is great.